And here we are live. How's it going, everybody? I hope the quality is going to work here. I believe internet shouldn't be too big of a problem, but in case anybody has any questions for this AMA, we're going to be using the chat feature here on Crowdcast. So don't be afraid to jump in there. Feel free to add comments, ask questions. We'll try to make sure that we get to everything there. My name is Mark Nagar, for those of you who may not have seen my name yet. I will give a quick background on myself, but the majority of this AMA is going to be focused on two local entrepreneurs from Telluride to kind of share a little bit of their background and their experience, what it's like to start a company in Telluride, and we can get a little bit more tactical about the program itself. So, and I have Ashley here as well.
How are you?
Make sure that she can say hi. So real quick, let's see. Kelly, Tomer, can you guys hear me?
Yep,
yes.
We're good.
No, we cannot.
Hi, Felt. Why did you cut your hair?
Let's see here.
Yes, I just go by Felt.
Work again.
My name. Purely Felt. Oh, that's funny. It was for my wife's birthday gift, and I was sick and tired of looking for hair ties.
There. Well, it looks good. You look more like your driver's license picture now.
Thanks.
Okay.
Can everybody in Chatland hear us?
Oh.
I think everybody in chat. Can you guys hear us?
They say yes.
They said yes.
Yep.
Hey guys, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Oh, let's try that.
Okay. Wait, why do I have the only video? Hello?
All right.
I think we lost Tomer.
Let's see, Kelly, can you hear me?
Yep. Mark, can you hear me? Hello? Man, and they say the internet in Telluride is bad.
People actually comment.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know what to do. Tomer, I think we lost Mark. I can't tell if he can hear me or not.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Last time, let's give this a go.
Internet on my end. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
I'm back.
Ta-da! You're a little fuzzy.
and
Can
fuzzy.
you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Great. All right. Let's see if we can't get started. Tell me if I start getting choppy, guys.
Okay.
So perfect. Sorry for that technical glitch here. So the goal of the conversation today is to dive in, hear more specifically from a couple local founders and entrepreneurs what it's like to start a business in Telluride. If anybody has any questions, feel free to throw it in chat, and we can monitor any of those questions, try to get to them all throughout the program here. So to get going, Kelly, Tomer, why don't I turn it over to Kelly first and then Tomer, but just a quick background. Who are you? What are you working on? And the last question is, why Telluride?
Am I starting? I'm Kelly Waters. I'm the COO of Western Rise. We are a technical apparel brand. We make clothes for anything the outdoors will bring you, from walking out your front door to climbing a mountain. And we chose Telluride because honestly, we started in the mountains, but because it's a great location for our company for inspiration and also for testing products. And it has a great community of entrepreneurs and support here for us. So it's just a really good spot for our business right now.
Hi, Tomer. I'm the CEO of Felt, and I chose Telluride before we started our business because we were just looking for a different lifestyle. You know, just wanted to be closer to nature, closer to the mountains. We're adventure junkies, and we moved from Dallas to Telluride 6 years ago. And then about a year after we moved, my job was like, move back to Texas or be let go. So we chose to be let go because we love Telluride so much. And then 2 weeks after we made that decision, we had our idea for our business. So our business has nothing to do with Telluride, and the decision to be in Telluride has nothing to do with our business. But you know, we've, I think, really persevered through a lot of challenges in our business because we love where we live. And a big part of building Felt was to support our life and, you know, the ability to live in Telluride while also still feeling like we're making an impact on the world. And I think that's, you know, a really interesting, exciting common thread that a lot of people in Telluride have. Being, you know, thrillists, we also want to make, you know, see big things happen around us. So I've enjoyed it beyond words. I think the people that we've met in town, you know, keep us there even more than the mountains do. So that's a little bit.
Hey, so Tomer, I'll fire back to you, and then Kelly, if you want to answer next. But you know, often I'm currently in Seattle right now. I just got off of a panel here at Seattle Startup Week, and one of the big things was a bunch of people talking about all the things that are challenges and wrong with the Seattle startup ecosystem. It never seems to amaze me that you know, there's always challenges no matter where you are. Silicon Valley, New York, right? Like the grass is always greener is a little bit of that, you know, just harsh reality of all aspects of our life. And so, you know, I just want to call out very specifically one of the #1 criticisms that I get, or, you know, just skepticism is the better word. You know, can you actually freaking start a company from a place like Telluride? And obviously both of you are, you know, you're doing it. And it's not easy, right? You make sacrifices. Some things are great, some things are not. Some days are good, some days are bad. I think it's a entrepreneurial story, but when people kind of ask you, like, can you really do it in Telluride? You know, what would be your response? We'll go Tomer and then Kelly.
Pretty simple. I mean, if we can do anything that's ambitious, you should be able to build a company in Telluride. You know, it's. I think the question is rooted in fear, right? It's like, oh, I'm not going to have access to customers. Oh, I'm not going to have access to people and talent and workforce and blah 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 blah. It's it's so situational based, right? Every circumstance is different. Every business is different. However, the one common thread is, what do you believe in? What do you want for yourself? What do you need to be happy? If any of those have to do with what Telluride offers, then there's really only one answer, which is move to Telluride and figure it out. And that's what we did. And I think that's probably what Will and Kelly did.
Yeah.
And I think that's, the core heart of the issue is, what do you need? Does Telluride offer it for you as a human being? And can you live without it? If you can't live without it, if it's really like driving that much of your happiness, then you'll figure out a way to make everything else work. We ended up partnering with a company in Chattanooga to do all of our design, which basically alleviated our need to manage half of our company because our partners manage all of our designers. And that's just how we did it, but that's not a template. Simply put, the reason we got to that place was because we had to. We had to figure it out. And so it's totally possible to figure it out. There's a great community of people, including myself, Mark, and Kelly in Telluride, who will help you figure it out and will support you through the troubles and tribulations and fears and anxieties that come along with doing something you've never done before, and there isn't a template to follow. And that's where, I think that's why we're on this call, is because the community that we have connected into is kind of our secret sauce, right? And it's like such a great human experience. Doing something that has never been done before, but that you need in order to be happy, you'll feel the highest of the highs, and you'll have a team and a community that will, support you through the lows. So that's a long answer for a pretty simple question, but there's a lot of ways to get from A to B, and Telluride is just a very unique way for people who really need it in their life to do it.
Yeah. I would definitely agree with that. Mark, you're totally right. Like, there are issues in startups no matter where you are. There's always issues because you started a company, and so you're learning how to do things that you haven't done before. So I would agree with Tomer that, if you're creative, you can get around most things, but I don't think that we necessarily have any issues that are very much different than working in another startup community. Housing is tight in Seattle. Housing is difficult in San Francisco. Like, I would argue that it's better here than in San Francisco. And you can get talent all over the place. There are talented people here. We also have talented people on our team in Portland, in Chamonix, France. Like, the internet does amazing things, and you can build a team as long as you're committed to communication. I think you can definitely build a strong, talented team here. But I think most importantly is what Tomer was saying, like, the community here is what makes it really worthwhile. For Will, my co-founder Will, and I, like, getting outside is a huge inspiration to what we do. And it's also a huge balancing aspect of being an entrepreneur. So being able to be here and have mountains in our backyard is a huge stabilizing factor for us as we're going through this startup experience. And like Tomer said, like, there's such a great support network here. Like, I always know if we're having a rough day, if we're having a great day, there's always people that we can call that will help walk us through whatever part of the entrepreneur roller coaster we are on at that time. And that's definitely one of the reasons that we decided to stay here and not relocate to a different mountain town, was because of that supportive community. And, there's a lot of really, really educated people in that supportive community that can help you brainstorm and creatively get through different scenarios.
I think one of the things I love to think about, and weaknesses, and I want to make sure we get to the weaknesses kind of side of things, just to be candid with those who might be, evaluating this as a potential part of their life. I think on the strength side, the type of engagement that you get with some of the mentors and, just insanely successful people who have found their way via second home ownership or retirement, or, just that same sheer dedication of being in a place like Telluride. I think access to that network is almost back on that panel I was on here in Seattle. People are complaining about they don't have access to the mentors. They feel like all the good mentors are taken up now. They're feeling like access to capital is one of their biggest challenges. And it's funny, I think those are two of our biggest strengths, are kind of the sheer number of really successful people that you're not just going to sit down in a boardroom at a co-working space with, right? Like, you actually have the opportunity to go hiking with, or form a different type level of relationship with. And I think that's been successful for a lot of entrepreneurs. And I mean, along with those relationships, generally is our resources and some of the capital things. Now, I know both of you have found some financial support from the startup community in Telluride. But I kind of want to jump to those weaknesses. Like, what are some of those real challenges that you guys have had as businesses that may or may not be related to Telluride, right? Because I think, again, it's hard to draw causation versus correlation on some of them. But what are the real struggles that you guys have as entrepreneurs in Telluride?
Sure. Well, one of the problems that we have, it's kind of a problem we solved before we got here, but if you're trying to do any sort of shipping or handling or anything out of Telluride, like, you may want to consider outsourcing it. Just because we live in the mountains and it takes UPS an extra day to get here, regardless of what you paid for. And there's not a lot of warehousing space available here. That being said, there's lots of other options for that. That would be like our first one. That's pretty core to our business. And we got a third-party logistics center that ships for us, which is great and what you should do anyways. But that's the first one that comes to my head. I know that Tomer has a couple.
Yeah. Gosh, I was gonna say, what problem haven't we faced? I would say, like, the thing that would be the Telluride weakness is really, I think Mark hit it on the head. It's like you can't really tell the difference between causation and correlation. Like, I personally am so passionate about living in Telluride that I would not attribute any of our weaknesses to town. And I would just say that, we at Felt have, I feel like we've gone through such a roller coaster ride, such a struggle at our company. Everything from, being personally in debt to up to $60,000 on credit cards, to being, the business had debt of up to, I don't know, like over $100,000. We bootstrapped the company. So, like, we used our own cash and credit cards for the first 3 years. We had to build like 3 entirely different apps. Not like updates to our app, but like we were on iPad, then we went to iPhone, then we have to do like iPad and iPhone. And we went 3.5 years without ever being featured by Apple. Like, we were doing like 20 downloads a day for 3 years. And now we're doing like 200 to 300 downloads a day and spiking around 20,000. But it took a long ass time to get to where we are. And we're still nowhere near where we need to be. Like, we're still losing, $10,000 to $15,000 a month. And, we're having to make really big, important strategic decisions. So I would say, like, we are a great example of a struggling, effed up business, because we're selling $3 cards and making $1 per card. We have to sell like 20 to 50,000 cards a month to make this business work. And I think we're going to make it work simply because we want it more than the next guy, because we don't want to move to a big town and go work for somebody else. And the weakness that Telluride has might be that we get bummed out when it rains a little bit. It's hard to go outside on those days.
No.
Here. Yeah.
I remember literally sitting in our living room one day, and it was raining for like a week straight, and I was getting depressed. I was like, I can't go outside, and then I finally put my rain jacket on. went outside.
I think so. One of the funny things is, I use you as an example right now for can you actually make it in Telluride? For those of you who may not know, you can walk into any Apple store right now, and I think being featured on their stock devices in Apple stores is felt like one of the 10 apps or however few they choose, right?
Yeah.
But like, and you're featured in some of their commercials, and you're recently on Shark Tank. You're like one of the top 2 or 3 in the category, right? So, I mean, you know, all of those metrics are incredibly, like, you can still achieve those type of metrics, but on the inside, you're still having a lot of the same challenges that most entrepreneurs are going to have, no matter where you are, type thing.
Yeah, we broke into the top 5 greeting card apps in the App Store this year.
Yay.
Yeah, which is a hell of a thing to say, and it feels great. And so yeah, the same challenges that everybody faces in every other city, you get to face in Telluride. I will say the number one improvement, right? Because we've been at it for 4 years, and we started Felt the year before Telluride Venture Accelerator started. So we've gotten to see the Telluride community, the entrepreneurial community, go from its infancy to where it is today. And I'll say the number one improvement that we've seen and the biggest impact on our business that the community has provided is really like, this sounds maybe like elementary, but just the creation of the community. Like, there was no community before. There literally wasn't. Like, we didn't know anybody else working on anything else in town. All of our friends, work for other local businesses and ski, and we met them at the local shops and skiing together. But when, I will credit, Mark and Ashley's development of our community. When they showed up to town, my buddy was like, dude, you got to go meet Mark and Ashley. I was like, okay, cool. We met we had a dinner party one night, and ever since then, we've raised local money. We've had, support, like real entrepreneurial support. Like, how are you feeling? Dude, I'm having a shitty day. Like, terrible day. Are you kidding me? I'm literally destroyed. You can't have those conversations with your spouses, with your girlfriends, with your boyfriends, with anybody else who doesn't understand what that means.
Yeah.
And I'll say, like, the biggest thing that's changed is that, Mark and Ashley bring in that sense of true experience to our community and bringing people, out of the woodwork, out of their, home offices into a common space where they can talk, share, and, struggle and celebrate together. And that's been the biggest benefit, like the biggest addition to my life, and I would say Gracie's life, is that ability to, like, have people around us that know what we're going through.
I think this is something you hit on, Tomer, that for those that may not know, I was an executive at Techstars for a year. My title was Chief Community Officer. And part of the value prop when you're an entrepreneur out there, for anybody considering any type of accelerator program, the one thing that's not talked about and emphasized enough is the value proposition of that community. And that's not exclusive to an accelerator program, but I think that's something that it just kind of helps fast track and support, because it, inherently builds that kind of density. We do have a question here from Jeff. And Kelly, maybe I can toss this one to you specifically.
Yeah.
By the way, for anybody listening, I think we've got 10, 12 folks who have been watching the whole time here. Feel free to throw in your questions into the chat here, whether they're about, to Kelly or Will specifically about the program or anything. But Jeff asked, what is the greatest benefit going through the TBA program, and how did the business evolve? Yeah.
So I think for me, on the operations side, one of the biggest benefits of coming through TBA is we have a product dialed. We had been in business for a year already, had sales, had a marketing plan, had marketing traction. What we really needed was operational guidance, operation in the form of financial plans and projections, and operating plans, and making sure that we had, like, my co-founder and I knew what we wanted out of the business. We knew what the mission and the vision was. but trying to get those more solidified so that when we expanded our team, we could continue that was really helpful. I think one of the other things was just like making us aware of business opportunities that we were not aware of when we were starting our company alone. We were very much like Tomer doing a company alone. I didn't know anybody else that was starting a company at the time outside of, older people that had exited their companies. And so just having that community and having people throw around some what if ideas has definitely pushed us to go in a larger direction faster. So it's expanded our vision. It's given us the operating structures to reach those goals. And I think most importantly, it's put us in touch with people that as we grow, because every time you grow and you reach a goal, there's also another hill right behind that. And so it's put us in touch with people that once we graduated, I still have people to contact when we get to that next hurdle. And when we get to the hurdle after that, I always have people to call and say, what do you think about this? Have you experienced this before? And so for us, that's been by far the biggest influencer.
I think one thing I did want to point out for anybody that's on here too, a question I get a lot is on stage of company that's appropriate for an accelerator. I really think that, where you guys kind of came in, Kelly, was the sweet spot of any accelerator program, right? You had, well into the 6 figures of revenue, but you kind of had that very strong initial traction, call it product market fit, whatever you want. And I think that being at a stage where your business can ask serious questions, where you're not just in pursuit of what the idea is in that initial traction, that's important, right? Because when you get an intro to, I don't know, Jeff Katz, who's one of our fairly active, engaged mentors, the former founder of Priceline, former CEO of Swissair, right? Like real deal kind of guy. He's not going to help you figure out what your idea is. But what he is going to do is help you, grow your business and build a real company, right?
And I think that was the most helpful part, was that we had kind of gotten to a point where we knew what our current pain points were. Obviously, we have different pain points now, but we had actual practical, applicable questions that we were going in with. I mean, I had a list of 20 things when I walked in and I was like, I need help solving this. And it wasn't like hypothetically down the road, what might this look like? Because it's always different for every company. And mentors like to have like that very detailed, specific question of having a specific problem to solve that they can apply their knowledge to. Because hypothetical discussions, I mean, we can have those all day long. We do. But yeah, having those hard questions and things that maybe you don't know yet, but you have an idea that you may need help with, is definitely helpful coming into it.
Absolutely. And so, Tomer, I'll just do a question that Daniel threw in here. Since Felt is a web-based company, how are you finding detailed demographics of your consumers and addressable market?
Question's a little confusing, only in that I would actually kind of reverse it, and I would say, since we're a web-based company, we have a lot more demographics on our consumers. And because we're a web-based company, we can actually test markets to find the most applicable market that we should address. So, this kind of comes back to a couple of things. Like one, so let's just take Facebook advertising. So if you want to throw an ad on Facebook, you can drill down demographics to age, gender, location, interests, device type that they're going to be discovering your ad through. You can even do time of day, right? So you can, from a demographic standpoint, you can target people to a very finite level. You can test demographics and then discover who your consumers are based on, click rate, interest, right? So if you do an ad about your product, say your product is like a new shoe, and you put the ad up there, and you see that women are clicking on it more than men, well, then you can say, okay, our demographics are women. And then you could even price the shoe, on a landing page and see how many people like pre-order it. And then you can see, okay, if the market is big enough and you have enough margin into that product, and enough people like pre-order it, then you have an addressable market that you should actually go after. We didn't do any of that when we launched Felt, which is part of the insanity behind our situation. But if and when I build another company, I will do a lot of that. So the fact that we're web-based, and it's not even because Felt is web-based. Like, Western Rise, Will and Kelly's company, is a physical good. Obviously, they sell through the internet, but even like Floridora, one of our local like restaurants, could test ideas and hypotheses that they have around their brunch menu if they threw it online and gauged interest. So I would say the web and the things that you can do help you answer both of your questions there, demographics and addressable market.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we still do that. We have almost 5,000 customers now, direct online. And so we get a lot of data from them, but we do same things that Tomer does on Facebook, drilling down. The other cool thing that you can do is, like, if you have email addresses of your customers, like we have 5,000 customers, but I have a 50,000 email list and we have 64,000 followers on Instagram. You can load all of those customers up into Google and into Facebook, and they will pull those demographics based on those email addresses for you. So even if they're hypothetical customers that you're trying to reach, you can still get that data from them.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy, but really, really informative.
I'm gonna go put your email address in there.
Oh God, good. You can tell me what it says about me.
What are Kelly's interests?
Right, yeah. Trading some secrets here. One thing that it kind of brought up for me that's just worth commenting is diversity of the type of teams. Since Ashley and I have been out on the road, a lot of founders have been asking, like, what are the right type of teams? Is there a focus on an industry? And I would say, like, no, there's actually the right type of team are the ones that are gonna, the individuals who are gonna fit in Telluride, because we're looking for people who can, who want to be there, who can add value to the community above and beyond just working on a company every day, right? So I think that's one thing that we really look for. And then from industry, we have everybody, like, basically the guy who led the VP of emerging technologies for the London Stock Exchange, like literally the dude who built the technologies that trade trillions of dollars a day, right? He lives and works in Telluride every single day. So we have everything from like blockchain to AI, machine learning to hard goods to technical clothing to drones to pure software, web-based e-commerce. The diversity is really phenomenal, and I think the key thing is that the accelerator can help play a role in is, are there at least a handful of people with experience in that industry or network? And I think when Ashley and I are taking the time, if you're applying or if you know other people, right, if we can make a match, we're going to make a match. If not, we're also going to be really honest about it, because accelerator programs and the community, we all want to be able to help each other out. We want to give every entrepreneur an unfair advantage of some sort. And that speaks just to the wide diversity of teams. So I want to encourage anybody, what are the hard questions that you have for any of us here? If you're considering it maybe specific to your own business even, don't be afraid to dive in there. But I had another question for both of you guys, because you kind of hit on it a little bit, but I think the reality of building a company anywhere today, in almost any industry, is that you're building more remote teams from the get-go, right? Like day one, you're already thinking about, okay, if I'm starting my business here in Seattle, right? Like my first 5 hires might actually be in 2 or 3 other cities type thing. So how do you guys think about that? Because you're both kind of at that stage of growing and you've got teams and team members distributed at this point. But how is that part?
Kelly, you go first. I need to go get my charger.
Sure, yeah. Well, outside of my co-founder, who is in Telluride with me, and we're here because we stubbornly want to be here and we're going to make it work. Our entire team is remote. And, you know, we consciously did that. We could have hired people here, but I am a firm believer in hiring people that are smarter than me, if at all possible. And there are great, smart people here, but we also looked for culture fit, and the people that had the skills and also fit our culture that we needed for the company at the stage that it is are in the places that they want to be. And they choose to live in places like Portland and Durango and France because those locations drive their passions. And so in the end, like having people that are passionately and have communities that support them end up being better members of your team. But communication can be challenging when you don't have somebody sitting at the desk right next to you that you can talk to all the time. So we're constantly working on that. Skype is really valuable, getting FaceTime with people. We try to communicate, the key members of our team we communicate with every day via Skype, email, phone. And you know, in that situation, it's not that much different than having them here because I still see them every day. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of how we deal with it. It works better with some people than with others, but our team has all chosen and prefers to work remotely, so it works better that way.
Yeah, this idea of place as an entrepreneur, as somebody even just working with early stage companies, it's, you know, I think that's something that it's not just a trend. I truly believe it's kind of the future of work, and you know, we just happen to be geographically imposed to, you know, have to build that into the context of a new business. But yeah, it's happening everywhere, I think is the short answer, right?
Yeah, I mean, we started our remote team when we lived in Georgia. We were 30 minutes north of Atlanta. I could have easily just hired everybody out of Atlanta. There were plenty of people there that had the talent we were looking for. And we consciously chose to have a remote team. And it's worked out well for us, but it's definitely a conscious decision. Like, you have to work at communicating with people, which is actually a great thing because you should be communicating with your team anyways.
Yeah, probably one of the number one like broad skill sets that any good company needs to get good at, and have to go through your own versions of growing pains, no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool, Tomer. I don't know if you had anything on that topic.
Sure. You know, like practically speaking, get everybody on the phone, or, you know, obviously we use like Google Hangouts or whatever, but get everybody together at least once a day. You know, I think it's just smart and wise to do. We do it, and it's just fine. Get everybody on the phone. Get everybody together once a day. Don't skip it unless everybody's like heads down working on something. And then, you know, also, like, I mean, this is like another thing that you do no matter what, but you have to hire well. And I made so many bad hiring decisions early on, and I got lucky with the ones that ended up working. But in hindsight, the ones that ended up working worked because what I could offer them was in line with their needs as a person. Like, here's an example. Like our iOS engineer, who's been with us now for 2.5 years, I would consider a friend more than even just an employee or a colleague. And, you know, he loves the freedom of being able to work from home. Loves it. We pay under market. Like, you know, we don't pay a lot. He loves that, and he loves the ability to say, like, we're doing things. Like, we're getting traction. You know, we went on Shark Tank, we got featured by Apple. Like, so, so like, we offer him this excitement and this thing that he can go tell his family about. And, like, you know, it's more than money. It's more than a job. And so that's, you know, I would say, like, look at hiring as you look at your product, right? Nobody wants to sell the same product everybody else sells, right? As entrepreneurs, we're always looking for the thing that nobody else sells that everybody wants, right? We're trying to create that opportunity, create that product. think about the same thing for your employees, right? You want to find the employee who wants to work with you and nobody else, right? Because you offer them something different. Like we just hired a lead engineer. I've known this guy for 10 years, but me and him had a super conversation. He was like, dude, I don't want to work a lot. I want to hang out with my family. I want to be with my children. He's like, I will commit to build this awesome system. It'll be stable and sustainable, and we can evolve new products off of it, and I'll crush it for as long as it takes me to build it. But after that, I want you to know, like, I don't want to work all the time. I want to hang out with my family. And I was like, so do I. And that's why we're working together, because we both want the same things outside of our jobs. And so that synergy and that alignment is really key. And it feels so good once you find it, because it removes a lot of the insecurities around, oh man, are they working? Are they not working? Like even like Matt posted a picture of him working on his landscape garden on a Thursday. Like at what company can you post landscaping photos on a Thursday? And everybody's like, thank God. Because last night he was up till 4 a.m. working with our Indian team, you know, and he's taking a break. And we all know, and we all like have that sense of stability and security with each other.
That's very much the startup culture too. It's definitely not 9 to 5. Like all of our team works crazy hours, and our product developer is similar. Like Fridays are a no talk day because she doesn't have daycare on Fridays and she's home with the kids. But that being said, I may be getting a call from her at 8:30 on Sunday night because she wants to catch something before, you know, during the Chinese workday on Monday and make sure that stuff gets started early. So, or she's texting me now. So, I mean, I think that that's just part of being a startup, and making sure that everybody is on board with the startup community and isn't expecting to like check out at 5 and have nobody contact them until 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Like, it just doesn't work that way.
And I would also say, like, catch it early. Like, if you're working with people who you know just aren't right, you know just aren't. Yeah. I mean, sometimes.
Early. Yeah. Earlier rather than later.
Yeah. I was like, you know, and sometimes you don't think you can't afford to. Like, I always thought that when I was working with people. I always made these, like, superfluous deadlines in my mind. I said, we got to get it out by holidays. We always missed our deadlines. We never got stuff out in time. And it was such a painful experience to work with people who just aren't in it for the right reasons, who you're not paying enough because you're a startup. And then when you find somebody who is in it for the right reasons and it's effortless and they add energy and they push more wind into the sails, and you feel like you don't have to try as hard because they're helping, you know, that's like 10 times more that's worth 10 times more than the progress you think you're going to lose by not hiring that person who isn't a good fit, which I always thought, like, you know, got to hire, got to move, got to hire, got to move, you know, like make progress. So, you know, my big takeaway from my Felt experience was progress over quality is not a good trade-off.
No.
Yeah. And I think being a community like Telluride, we have some of those dynamics that are just so in your face, front and center. You know, like having a remote team and how to manage that, right? Like it tends to be, you know, we don't say, in Seattle, I felt like a lot of the startups, they save those conversations until later because it's not as in your face. Some of those cultural aspects of supporting your team members, that alignment of, you know, work-life balance, you know, your professional goals, your personal goals, all that. Anyways, we have a couple more questions. Let's skip to those, and then we'll start to wrap up. It looks like 1 or 2 folks have to get out of here. So Daniel asked, what is to be expected of the work community and environment at the peaks if selected in the accelerator? Are companies working together? How is the program tailored, individualized? I'll hit that real quick. Kelly, if you have anything to add.
Sure.
You know, I think, number one, the program is built for working companies. This is a big philosophy that Ashley and I bring into the program. You know, you can't, this isn't school, right? Like, we're not giving you freaking homework. This is a business. This is real life. You know, we're not going to give you assignments and everything else. We are going to ask you for kind of a minimum of about 5 hours a week that we're going to be putting you through kind of that pressure cooker environment. You'll have anywhere between 5 and 10 hours a week of kind of design content, but it'll be planned out well in advance, so you can plan your workday, the actual operations of your company. And we'll leverage a lot of the community, the social environment as well. So, you know, when we think about the Peaks environment, it's very much a co-working space in and of itself. And we build very intentionally a community out of the teams that are in the program. And we integrate those teams. We're going to do a lot to integrate those teams with existing entrepreneurs like, you know, Tomer and Will and Kelly and Gracie and everybody in town. Like, for example, the first week of the program, Ashley and I already have a hut booked. And so we're taking everybody up to High Camp Hut.
I'm considering enlisting myself back into the program just so I can go on the hut trip.
There's 30 spots, so you know we're going to be able to invite a bunch of other people from the community. But right, like that for us is part of that experience of building those relationships through experiences that are not only fun and fulfilling, but they help give you a basis for solving a lot of those, you know, personal and business challenges that you encounter. And I think that's a real competitive advantage of being in a place like Telluride, that you can have those experiences. So, and in terms of like curriculum customized, we're working with every company. Demo Day is not about getting funding for us. It's really about understanding what are the goals of each company coming into the program. How are we going to help you achieve those? Funding might be one of them. They generally have to do with customers and traction and, you know, distribution or things like that too. So I'm more focused on those than I am, you know, the quote unquote vanity metrics that a lot of accelerators focus on. Kelly, I don't know if you have.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you weren't in charge when we went through the program last year. So it was structured a little bit differently. We definitely had more than 5 hours of in-program time a week. And we did have assignments, I would say, but like, it's not like like superfluous homework. It's like working on financial projections for your company. It's shit you should be doing anyways. So that's a good thing. It can feel like a lot of pressure sometimes when you have sales and you have marketing campaigns and that stuff going on. I mean, occasionally it does feel like you're going through grad school for your business. But you're never going to learn it more effectively when it's your own money and your own business on the line. So, I mean, yeah. And I mean, in the end of the day, like you'll get out of it what you put into it. So if you're invested in it, if you're invested in reaching out to mentors and actually asking hard questions and being vulnerable, you'll get a lot out of it. If you prefer to work remotely out of the library or an in-town office, you're not going to get as much because you're not going to be part of the community there. And I mean, when I was in it, our teams worked really well together. We hung out outside of it. Like we were always in the office together, shot ideas off of each other, helped each other with different marketing campaigns. So they did a really good job of like trying to facilitate a collaborative environment that was not competitive and was focused on everybody improving and everybody reaching their goals. And I know that with Mark in charge, he will continue to focus on that. So yeah, I mean, I would just say it's what you put into it, for sure.
So I'm going to jump to one quick question here. And if you guys want to think of maybe some closing thoughts, Tomer, you might have something to add to this as well. Krista asked, really struggling to find a tech team willing to come for sweat equity until we get funded, done co-founder dating. This is another one of those top questions that I get no matter what startup community I'm in the world. You know, my first response tends to be like, part of entrepreneurship is a self-discovery of your, you know, looking in the mirror, right? That's self-awareness. You know, and if folks have gone out there, Krista, if you've gone out there and you've, you know, been trying, you know, I would start to dig in with you deeper on, okay, what are the alternatives? One alternative is maybe we're too in love with your idea and not in love with the problem, right? Maybe you just need to get people excited about the problem over the idea. Because I see a lot of founders that are really inflexible. And if they bring on co-founders, you know, they might not be willing to stray from, no, this is the way it needs to be done. That's probably one of the #1 traits. But let's assume that's not happening. Then I kind of move to the, all right, other alternative might be, maybe you can, you know, approach it a little bit differently. And I know, Tomer, you recently sent me a group that you've been working with for technical outsourcing, right? And they've just done a tremendous job. So back to the power of the network. There are alternative ways to, there's no one way to slice an onion.
Yeah, I would actually hold this group's name as gold. And probably bribe you for a beer or something before I give it away. I swear to God, I've had such terrible experiences trying to build our product with engineers. So A, I feel you. B, I think Mark's magic is like getting into the psychology of things. It's helped me, personally one-on-one with like just what's really going on. So, I think think about what Mark said. And lastly, if you really have a great idea, if you really are the right person to execute, if everything is right and you really just can't find people to help you build it, on an entrepreneurial spirit, right? Investing with you, working for less, whatever it might be. There's a group in Pakistan that I recently was introduced to via some of our other investors and some of their companies, and they are phenomenal. Quality work, smart, will think through the idea with you, hardworking. They're $50 an hour, which is twice what we pay ourselves, but you get a lot for that money. So, really tactfully, sure, I can totally put you in touch with them if that's something you want. But you got the intangible.
I'll tell you right now, buy Tomer a beer.
And buy me beer. But intangibly, you should really make sure you are continuing to be aware of some of the other reasons that you might not be able to get people on board.
Yeah.
Right? Because you just got to be open to it. Maybe it's the way you're delivering it. To Mark's point, problem versus solution. Maybe it's you're not open to being wrong, and maybe there's other tweaks you need to make from people's feedback. Maybe the idea just isn't inspiring. Right? There's a lot of reasons people don't work for free. So focus on why you would work for free, and then go figure out if you have any of those problems or not. But if you've got $50 an hour, you can definitely hire these guys and they'll crush it. Yeah. I'd be happy to do a one-on-one chat. I'm sure any of us would be.
Awesome. Thanks for volunteering that, Tomer. Perfect. So, guys, we're pretty much at time here. I think if you guys have any closing thoughts, I'll turn it over to you in a second. But just wanted to invite everybody. I think the network, the talent that we have, in Telluride as a community, and the density of just really smart entrepreneurs would blow your mind for a town of 3,500 people. Again,
yeah.
Ashley and I got convinced to move there because of this program. We've been fortunate enough to, meet a number of people like Tomer and Gracie and Will and Kelly and a number of the other just dedicated, successful, smart people. I like to say I feel more cultured and more social than I ever did living in Seattle, building a company for 7 years. And that's a fascinating thing. I just feel like I have to share with folks because in these larger cities, the group that we ended up running around with, even here at Seattle Startup Week, there's something like 6,000 attendees this year. And it's a pretty homogeneous group, not in terms of ethnicity or any of those things, but just in terms of walk of life. Where did you come from? What are you interested in? And I think that diversity really comes out in a place like Telluride because you don't just go to, hear a band play in Telluride. We all go to hear the festival, the concert, the film festival, the, PhD Nobel-winning, scientist who's in town for another one of the programs, right? And it's just fun to be able to share that. And we talk about startup communities, and I think Telluride, in a bigger sense, just has something really special to offer that I'd volunteer myself as an example, and encourage all of you to think about as an entrepreneur what that role in community and place plays in your future. Having traveled around the world, I can truly vouch for being a special one and lucky to know guys like these. So any closing thoughts from you guys, for anybody on the line who's thinking about Telluride as a point on the map for their journey?
I definitely do. Kelly, do you want to go first?
I'm going to let you go first while I type this really quick, and then.
Okay. I mean, if you've been on this call for any time, you can tell that, I'm all about the lifestyle over the business opportunities in Telluride. And Mark, I think really hit on it. He said it really comes down to Telluride being the right fit. And so let's talk about that. Here's some checklists that you should think about. Do you love dogs? You do. Telluride is a great fit. The most liberal leash laws in the country. That literally means you can open your door and your dog can go run out the door without having a leash on its neck. You can walk up and down the street in town with your dog and nobody has a problem with it. Your dog can run free pretty much and nobody has a problem with it. That's literally why we went to Telluride for this wedding when we moved there. And then because we were getting evicted from our apartment in Dallas for having our dog off leash. So if you love dogs, Telluride's a great place. Secondly, yes, everything, cats too, but cats should be tough cats.
Yeah, cats are a tough sell.
Secondly, I think so. A fun little quick story. When people were telling me, "Hey, you got to go meet Mark. You got to go meet Mark," I was like, "I'm gonna go meet Mark. He works at Techstars. He's gonna be this uppity dude who does deals and is in the tech community. He's gonna be all tech and just whatever." And then we met, and he's like, "Yeah, I grew up. My parents worked at Mammoth Mountain in California. I grew up, skiing, and I was a mountain. I'm a mountain person first, and that I think is a really important takeaway, and hopefully it's not intimidating because it was for me a little bit, but people who live in Telluride are first and foremost of the same lifestyle. And Mark said it, right? He's like, we all go out to the festivals together. We all go watch 4th of July fireworks together, because we want to. And it's fun, right? And but we do these things together because we all have them in common because we've all chosen to live in Telluride. And you live in Telluride because you want to do all these things. And that's what's so cool. Everybody who you meet, whether they're in TVA, whether they're just walking up and down the street, you have something in common. They love to ski. They love to hike. You can ask them what the last hike they did was. You can ask them how pumped they are about the ski season coming up. And your first conversation likely will not be about work. So if that excites you, if you love dogs, and if you want to meet people who really get after it, Telluride is just the place you got to be, and you just got to figure out how to make everything else work. And the last thing I'll tell you is I call them mini miracles. Right? These are things that happen. You can't explain how they happen. They feel like a miracle. They're typically minute and small and have this massive effect on your life. And you can trace your steps to how you got to that miracle. And it typically is from a decision you've made that you weren't sure if you were supposed to make it. It didn't quite make sense, but you just knew that it was really important to you. And moving to Telluride for the right person could be a mini miracle. And then going out to meet people when you don't want to because you're afraid, but you do it anyway because it's important to you, could have an impact on yourself, right? You can meet somebody who knows somebody. Krista joined this call, and now she's going to get hooked up with some Pakistani dudes who are going to build something for him or her. I'm not sure. But, many miracles happen in town, happen in Telluride, moving to Telluride, doing all these things that aren't templated. If you go to Seattle or any other big city, you will have a path laid out for you, generally speaking. Meet people who have done that. There's an organization for everything, right? But in town, there's not. So 2 advantages to going to a place that there's not already a foundation and not already all this stuff. everybody really cares about your success. Because a success in Telluride is so much more important to the town and to the people than a success in Silicon Valley. Go to Silicon Valley, you have to be a Google to get people to give a shit about you. Come to Telluride, you can be like top 5 app in the greeting card store, and like people think you're a fucking rock star. Come to Telluride where people really care about your success, because it's more important to the town to have the right people there really doing things and expanding beyond just a resort-based business. So it's way more important for you to be successful in Telluride to the town of Telluride than it would be in any other country or any other town in the country, and you'll have way more fun. But you got to make sure it's right for you. I'll just say that.
Great point, Tomer. And I know we're coming up on time here, but Kelly, give us some thoughts here.
We're actually, Will and I was just thinking that a year ago at this time, we didn't even know that we were moving to Telluride yet, and how different our life would have been if we had not just taken that leap of faith and been like, we're going to make it work. But Tomer's right. There's such an entrepreneurial community here, because everybody who chooses to live in a mountain town has given up something, where it's the American dream of a big house or, a certain salary income. Everybody that you meet has decided to sacrifice something to live here and make it work. And so even if they don't run a company, they have that spirit that definitely bonds us together. Will and I always talk about it as like a small town with a city feel. It's very small town Americana. Everybody knows each other. You can walk everywhere, which is great. But it's very cultured. You get a wide variety of people from different socioeconomic levels to different backgrounds. Most people weren't originally born here, so that's to Mark's end. But you also get pressured to continually improve, because you can't avoid people like you can in a larger city. You're going to see your investors at the grocery store. That's going to happen, and you're probably going to be in your jammies. So, it's a really good, challenging community, because it's like Tomer said, it's tight knit and everybody wants you to succeed, but everybody's also going to push you to be better and to not just, putz along at, something that makes you comfortable. Everybody here is going to challenge you to improve and be bigger and, ask why. We ask why a lot about everything in town. So you will not be excluded from that, which is a great thing for all of us. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. And even if you don't get into the TVA, you should come and ski with us, because we'd all love to meet you.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, guys. That was an awesome wrap up, both of you. Thank you, Tomer. Thank you, Kelly, for taking the time. It's been an honor to get to know you as part of, as founders, people I look up to and love spending time with in the Telluride community. I think anybody who's still watching, thanks for joining. If you still have questions about Telluride, being an entrepreneur, generally about the program, don't hesitate to reach out. These AMAs are really supposed to be a real show of who we really are, not just the fluff and the vanity of what startups sometimes are overly romanticized to be. So thanks again for being super real about this, you guys. Please, again, reach out. Let us know if you have any questions. And I guess that's it.
Thanks, Mark, for organizing.
Yeah. If you ever have questions, give us a shout.
Exactly. Perfect. Have a good Tuesday night, you guys.
See ya. Bye.
Ciao.